Welcome once again to AutoCrit 101. Today we are moving into the developmental editing phase. This is the first of 2 weeks of developmental editing classes. This week we're going to be tackling alpha reading and reverse outlining, which essentially gives us a clear view of what we have written in our book so far and how we need to get started with developmental edits. Next week, when we come back, we will talk about how to know what to change, where to focus, and how to actually revise. So this is going to be primarily developmental. We've already done classes on planning in AutoCrit. We've already done the class on writing in AutoCrit. All of those are available in the AutoCrit 101 replays, which are linked in the description box for the people who are tuning in on YouTube. So you can catch up with any of the replays that you missed there. As a reminder, for those who are tuning in for the first time, none of AutoCrit's tools write or rewrite any portion of your work. So our developmental editing tools are not going to generate content for you. That means that you don't normally have to check mark that you have generated content in your work unless you generated it outside of AutoCrit. Your work is 100% yours. It is not used to train any of our tools, and nobody sees it but you unless you decide you're going to share it in like our public pro member forums or something. So with that peace of mind, let's dive into editing a book. The first question I get a lot when it comes to editing is, when should we start? When are we ready to move out of drafting and writing into the editing? And there are 2 answers to this most commonly. One, obviously, when you finish your first draft, you have beginning, middle, end all fleshed out, and you want to make sure that you are polishing it up for readers. There's no holes. You don't have any places where your arguments are unclear. The information that you're providing becomes boring. We are looking for clarity. When we write nonfiction, we are looking for convincing and relatable arguments and examples, and we are looking for relevancy to our audience. So having a completed draft would move you into that stage. The other time you should consider doing what we're going to do today is if you get stuck somewhere in your book, meaning I get through a few chapters and now I'm doubting the whole thing, and do I even want to go this direction? Putting this through the alpha read level, doing a reverse outline on your nonfiction piece at that point when you start to have doubts or you hit a wall could help give you a clearer path to take this story forward with. And then you have actionable feedback too about what to do to change and course correct if you do need to pivot how you're presenting your topic to your readers. So just like our fiction and memoir writers, there are 3 approaches to writing nonfiction. We've got our planners, our plantsers, and our pantsers. Pantsers, where are you at? You have an idea of maybe self-help that's going to help somebody get through something you've been through, or you learn about a specific fact and you go down that rabbit hole and you want to start sharing that information for other people, and you discover more about the story you want to tell as you write it. Okay. Planners are the opposite end of that spectrum, where a pantser doesn't really plan anything. We just go in with an idea. A planner wants to have all their ducks in a row. Their outlines have outlines. Their research has been researched. They have whole files or sticky notes or spreadsheets complete to the brim so that they can just dive into writing their book and have everything organized. Then we have our plantsers. Planters are in the middle. You outline some and you free write the rest. Maybe you plot out the specific argument you're trying to make or the specific information you're going to give, but the examples you just let naturally come up on their own. Or the way you actually write the narrative isn't scripted out. You just let it flow naturally like you're talking to another person. The reason knowing your writing style matters is you are going to have different potential pitfalls and strengths going into editing. So we're going to work through some of these, and that way you walk into this editing experience with a clear vision of where those strengths and weaknesses are going to be, and you can prep for them. Planners are probably the most confident people going into the editing process. Good for you, planners! They're confident because they have outlined and researched so much that their first draft is bound to be airtight. That's the hope. But in reality, very, very few people, even Kat on Team Planner with over 300 books, very few people have perfect drafts, no matter how good your outline is. And planners, as a stumbling block, tend to want to go back, scrap the whole book instead of revise pieces of it that are broken and redo the whole outline, because in their mind, sometimes they think, oh, well, if the outline is bad, then the book is bad. If there's something wrong in the book, it's because I didn't plan enough or plan well. And in actuality, writing is an art, even in nonfiction form. And if you cannot accept that the first draft is going to be a little chaotic, as Kat says, it's going to be harder to get through to an actual end at any given point. You'll collect stacks of outlines. They struggle to accept rough drafts. The first draft's job is only to exist. And planners really struggle with this a lot because they wanted it to be so much better. They had these high expectations. They're their own worst critic, especially in nonfiction, because sometimes they are writing this book because they are the authority. There is nobody else to go give the same view that you are giving on this book. That's why you're writing this book. So getting feedback from other people who may not have your experience, especially as editors and not as people in your field, can be difficult to take seriously. So if you're a planner here today, my encouragement to you is to look to a reverse outline to fix your plot problems, your example problems, your argument problems, not a whole new outline. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. We can keep what is working really well and just change up examples or add in a few examples or change the way readers come away with the moral of our story. We can allow our work to be imperfect by incorporating the fact that this is going to be rough into the progress plans from the start. Planners plan a lot. Give yourself a buffer window to look through and accept the roughness of that first draft. Let your story breathe before you approach it so that you come at it with fresh eyes and less self-criticism. And ask yourself, when people give you feedback that feels silly to you, or maybe it feels clear because this is your area of expertise, ask yourself if your message is coming out the way it's planned. Your goal as a nonfiction writer is to enlighten and inform people who aren't you. And that means that they are coming from limited outside information about your topic to you, the expert in your field. And you have to think about how they receive and translate it through a lens that knows nothing. Planters, depending on whether the book is complete before you jump into this developmental editing phase or not, you could easily fall into editing cycles. We call this analysis paralysis. This is very prevalent among our planters who pull in information from other people taking classes like narrative tension, showing versus telling, dialogue, and instead of applying what they know now and moving forward and then coming back and fixing the earlier chapters later, they go back and fix because we're constantly learning this craft. If you don't make yourself just move forward, at some point you get stuck in this cycle of editing and implementing new things over and over, and the book never gets done. That isn't to say that classes aren't worth doing. That is not to say that you shouldn't implement what you learn. That is not to say that you shouldn't implement the ideas and feedback you get from other people, but do it forward focused. And planters do occasionally become fixated on keeping the very few key arguments, key examples, key morals of their story, key plot points exactly as they intended. So tips for my planters: consider a structured approach to your editing without allowing yourself to reread or revise until you get to certain points. Several planters in our community have shared with me that they let themselves revise what they wrote the day before and nothing else. And then they write the rest of the day, and then the next morning they pick up and revise what they did the day before. If that works with the way your brain works, go for it. If you're better off not editing at all till the end, go for it. But ultimately, we need to have this introspective moment and go, What is keeping me in this analysis cycle if we're to break it? Focus on polishing your own work and vision to where you are happy with it before you share it with other people. This is going to minimize bringing in plot squirrels or example squirrels or topic shifts that you weren't intending or rabbit holes in your piece. And allow your story the permission to change even your key original argument and goal and information if the story is stronger as a result. You could start out saying, I want to write a self-help book for writers. I'm going to walk them through getting started as a writer business, and then discover that it's not the writing phase that's the problem for many writers. It's finishing things out. It's getting through the editing. It's getting through the publishing and allowing yourself to surrender your original topic idea, which was how to write a book, and evolve it into how to actually finish the book you've started and get going with publishing. You might have a stronger book that is more relevant to readers. Pantsers. Many of us pantsers start the editing process because we started off rough because we know our work is going to be a mess. Planners expect their work to be good. Pantsers come in sort of open-minded, but as pantsers, we know it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be messy. We have to sort out all that stuff that we just pantsed and fill in our gaps in the actual examples, in our information, and make sure everything's cohesive. And because of this, it's daunting, and the developmental editing phase may tempt you to quit. But if you can get past developmental editing, the rest of the editing is downhill. If we can sort out our creative mess, the rest is easier along the way. We tend to add and revise quite easily because the same flexibility that we brought into writing this book is going to come through in our editing. And we may look for too many options to fix our first draft because we are flexible to a fault. It's like, oh, but what else could I add? So pantsers, we need to approach editing the way we approached the writing process. Hold our breaths, dive in, and swim as fast as we can to the other side of the developmental edit. Break your developmental editing process into smaller chunks that are easier to work through. Give yourself clear to-do lists. Today, I am going to tackle point of view. Today, I'm going to tackle my arguments. Today, I'm going to check for clarity of the information I'm giving. Today, I'm checking for pace. And you work through those different areas. And when they're all done, it's time to send it off to a beta reader. Try to self-edit your piece first if you can, using the tips from this class, and then limit the feedback that you get to 1 or 2 people to start so that you don't clutter up your original vision with everybody else's but what ifs that then get us right back into the drafting mode. The first stage of a developmental edit after the book is drafted is to get an alpha read. Now, an alpha reader is someone who reads the raw, rough, unedited draft of your book to make sure it aligns to the genre you say it's going to be. So if you tell me that, you are writing that book about writing and publishing and editing, and you come to me and go, hey, I wrote this book. It's supposed to encourage authors to finish writing and editing their books and get them started on publishing. Is that what it looks like I have? Your alpha reader is not going to edit for you. They are going to give you a broad initial vibe check and go, oh yeah, I can see how this could help a writer write a book. I could see how this could help you edit a book or get you started publishing. Or they could go, you talk so much about your experience that this feels more like an inspirational biography than a self-help book. And at that point, you have a choice to either lean into that vibe, inspirational biography, instead of a step-by-step self-help guide, or to go back and revise it. Do not ask your alpha readers to edit for typos or grammar. They're not going to do that for you because this is the biggest picture level and they know that you are going to take a bulldozer to a lot of your content to strengthen it and revise it. You can find alpha readers in writer communities, in reader groups, or on professional sites like Upworks or Fiverr or Readsy. You can also ask for word of mouth recommendations from your trusted peers. This is my #1 preferred method of finding readers. What should you do with the feedback they give? Because alpha readers are a vibe check, they're giving you an overall view of why they think your topic is within whatever genre it is, why they think it's clear, places that it's unclear. When you get that feedback, you're going to start notating and making action plans for yourself. This is an analysis phase. It is not an editing phase. We are going to notate things that might need to be changed, but we're not going to take the scalpel to it quite yet. When you go to have a surgical procedure done and you go into the hospital, you sit down, or you go to the surgery center, you sit down, the surgeon comes in and talks to you, right? And then the anesthesiologist comes in and talks to you, and they mark you up. They don't just take you back there and go, okay, knock them out. They don't talk to you. They don't ask anything. They don't confirm your condition. They don't look you over. That would be a big red flag, right? They come in, they sit down, they talk to you, they mark what they're going to do. And then you go back and then they put you under and then you do your surgery. This is the exact same thing. We're doing surgery on our books. If you just jump in here because you get a piece of feedback and it says, your topic could be clearer here, and you just jump in and start changing things, you could inadvertently be adding work to yourself because somebody else might have an even better point later on that needs work that then affects what you just changed here, and you have to go back and undo and then change things a different way. So the best way to think about this is you're doing surgery on your book. Let's mark it up. Let's have an idea, a plan for how we're going to chop this piece up. And then use that feedback as part of the developmental editing process from there. So what if you're not ready for readers? Someone actually just shared in the chat, and I appreciate it. You'd prefer a human reader, but you're much too confident for that. That is such a natural and normal response to have, especially if this is one of your first early books. If you are not ready for readers, there is an option for you. You could come into AutoCrit and use your pro membership to create your own alpha reader. This is not a fiction exclusive tool. I'm going to show you exactly how you could do that today. So before I can bring a book in, and I'm going to bring one of mine in today and show you the reader, I want to show you the file. And I'm going to show you what I would do to prepare this file written outside of AutoCrit to bring into AutoCrit to run the reader. So this file is full of formatting. It has the center alignment, chapter headings, acknowledgement pages, table of contents with bulleted points, headers, footers, the whole 9 yards. So to get a version that is going to work smoothly in AutoCrit, all this outside formatting has to come out. What I suggest you do is go to File, do a Save As, create a version of this file that you can then upload into AutoCrit without changing the formatting you may have already built. So for an AutoCrit file, I'm going to get rid of any front matter. If it is not the actual text itself, this whole table of contents thing can come out. I'm getting rid of all my front matter. I'm jumping straight into the heart of the book. And I'm going to strip out formatting as simply as 2 steps. Control A, Command A on your keyboard if you're on a Mac, highlights everything inside of your file. From here, on the top of your Microsoft Word file, there is a button that says Normal. This is the formatting options. So you are going to click that button. And that will strip out any not manually typed formatting in your piece. So manually typed indents like that one stayed. All the other indents left because the system automatically indented it. It was a formatting code. All my headers gone. Tables and charts gone. The information is there, but now it's clear. It doesn't have images hidden in it or any of that, and I can move forward. Italics stay because those can be put in manually. And here's an example of my chart that reverted back to the typed basic formatting. So again, Control A, select everything in the file, normal. That strips everything out in just 2 steps. From there, you're just going to make sure to take out images if you had them in the file. And while you're here, go to the Insert tab and remove page numbers, headers, and footers. You'll click it where it says footer, click remove, page number, remove. So now I have a clean file. I'm going to save this, and I'm actually going to drop this file into AutoCrit real time for you guys. So here we are on the AutoCrit website. From here, I am going to click the Writer's Desk tab on the left-hand toolbar. This is where we have been coming to plan and write our books if you've been following along with the series. And because this is a book I'm bringing in from outside of AutoCrit, I am going to use this upload button here to bring in my file. Now, if you want to write in AutoCrit from the ground up, you can go to Add instead and click the red File button and then create a blank file. This is also what you would do if you want to copy and paste from outside of AutoCrit into here. But copying and pasting will not remove that invisible code that will cause your analyzer to glitch. So strip your file before you copy and paste in. So I'm going to go to the upload button, and this will pop up an upload window. You can bring your books over in a docx, a TXT, or an RTF file. You cannot bring in EPUBs or PDFs or any other formatted image-based files. So here is my book. Nice, clean, stripped down. And this is just the beginning of this book because we get a lot of questions about, can I run my opening through? I put the first 3,000 words here. If you use the words Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, then when you go up here to this chapters icon at the top, you can have the system automatically identify chapters for your alpha reader here. Click Auto Find Chapters, and anything labeled Chapter 1 is going to appear there. But if you don't, like in this book, I don't use the word chapter. I use names. Do you really need an agent? I'm going to highlight the name of the chapter, and then I'm going to click this plus sign at the top of the page, and this lets me manually add this chapter to that chapter dropdown. And now the system can see this as a chapter. And I can also rearrange chapters by dragging and dropping from this list. And I can see the word count for each chapter. So from here, to make an alpha reader of our own, we're going to click the Analysis button. And because we are running a nonfiction book, we're going to run nonfiction here. It does not matter what genre you have here, because this section is for our algorithmic reports in these tabs there. So this tool is for these reports. It is not for your analyzer. Those reports don't have an editorial AI involved in them, so you have to tell them what genre you're writing. We're going into the nonfiction analyzer. It's smart enough to know what genre it's supposed to be, so you don't have to tell it. One question, though, before I move on from here. How many of you already know who your target audience is? You know what they like in the books they read that are nonfiction. You know what they don't like in their nonfiction books. You have an idea of books that are similar to yours, or comps, as we call them, comparable books. How many of you guys already have all of that lined up? And it's okay if you don't. Many of us start writing because we got inspiration for a specific topic that we love or idea that we love, but it's not actually something we found a market for yet. If that's you, head to the Market Fuel tab to start. Now, we don't want to run the whole thing here. What we are running is the very top two sections: the comp books, books that are like yours, and a market analysis. This will give you an idea of what age group and demographic your readers might be, preferences they have when they pick up books like these, and current other books like yours that they could like. You're going to want to save this information if you don't already have it in the back of your mind, so that you can then use it to create a customized alpha reader. So if I go down to mine, similar comp books: The Essential Guide to Getting Your Book Published, Guide to Literary Agents, the first 5 pages, A Writer's Guide to Staying Out of the Rejection Pile. These are all good comp books, comp authors, right? Jane Friedman's on that list. And then up here in the top, I can see a first and secondary audience, a primary audience and a secondary audience. I'm actually going to copy that for today's demonstration. Aspiring and never before published writers attempting to query agents, early stage indie authors considering hybrid or trad routes, writers with manuscript near completion who want practical procedural guidance, and authors seeking clarity on author terminology and red flags. So these are people who might like this book. Now that I have my audience and I have some comps in mind, I could go to the alpha reader here and I can click select your reader. The alpha reader is run first, usually. This is the person giving you that big level feedback. Does the book meet what I would expect as a reader of this genre? And if this is your first time in here, you're going to see a whole bunch of great starter templates here on the left-hand side. And we have lots of nonfiction ones, academic, biography, business, and you can use these as starting points. But what I suggest you do, because nonfiction is so specific on audience, we have a very clear audience that we're writing these books for, is that you actually click the red Create a New Reader Profile button on the right-hand toolbar. You can use the other templates and it'll give you good overview feedback, but the specifics is really what makes these readers special, that you're not stuck using the same advice that somebody else writing a completely different kind of business book would get, right? You're using a business reader specifically for your industry, and that's really important. So here I'm going to paste that primary audience. I am in the characteristics tab on the top right now, and I'm going to give this a name. This is going to be my self-help nonfiction reader. And I'm going to adjust a few things. So I'm going to get rid of some of the fluff. I am an aspiring and never before published writer attempting to query agents. I may be an early stage indie author considering hybrid or trad publishing routes. And then I'm going to bring my secondary audience here. I'm a writer with a manuscript near completion who wants practical procedural guidance, timeline and readiness checklist, for example. And then my last point, and I'm an author seeking clarity on industry terminology and red flags. So now that I've typed in these characteristics, I'm going to click Create Profile. And you can add so much. Yes, someone was just asking, how detailed can this be? You can add age groups, cultures, demographics, financial situations. You can tell it that they're writing a specific kind of book. I could say this is specifically for fantasy writers, for example. This is going to be as customized as you want it to be. Now, when I clicked Create Profile, in this Profile tab, it flipped over automatically. It took what I put for characteristics and expanded. I'm an aspiring writer, still navigating my way through the maze of the publishing world. I've gotten my first manuscript out into the wild yet, but I'm nearly there. And so it's bringing on. When I beta read, I keep a pretty close checklist in mind. Now, this is going to be some basic starter questions, but because our system isn't allowed to train on your work, you're not going to be able to talk to it after the story is done or after the feedback comes in and ask it questions. Think about it the way you would hiring a human alpha reader. We often send them surveys, right? When you're finished reading, please fill out this survey. Put that survey in here. Some of the starter questions: is the advice actionable and timely? Does it feel realistic? Are there clear markers for when it's ready? Are there things that will help me avoid common pitfalls? Is the tone supportive but honest? Are the examples relevant to me? Is a question I would ask. Are any places too information heavy / boring? If so, which ones? Give it a chance to say no. Don't ask it, tell me all the places it's boring, because it being a system will try to find a place it's boring, even if it's not, but ask it are there places that are that way? If so, where are they? Are the examples relevant to me? And so now I'm going to click this create button in the bottom right, and this is going to create a permanent template that stays in my readers no matter what other projects I bring into the system. You only have to take the time to build it once. And if you mess something up, you leave something out, you run it, and you go, oh no, I should have asked that question. Go to this settings cog here and adjust it, and then rerun it again. When you do this, it creates a persona, a group of personas that fall into those characteristics. And you can give it additional information if you want, which I'm about to do by clicking this drop down before I run it. So this is just the first chapter, right? This is only the first chapter of a full-length book. Please do not read it as though the full book is here. This is going to give it context so that it gives feedback that's relevant to what I am writing. And I'm going to click start reading. And now one persona within this big group of possible readers is going to read the book and give me this overall feedback on the clarity of my information, on the pacing of my information, on the relevance of the examples I've used, and whether or not this is something that would be approachable for my reader demographic. So we have our read. It ran through in just a minute, and it gives you a percentage that it would rate this quality of the book, and it will also tell you why. And these are the sections that I suggest starting in. There's a lot of information in this reader. You can scroll down and see all kinds of information to look through at your convenience. But the main two sections, the quickest way to get going with your developmental edit is to look down in these top two whys. Why it chose intrigued for quality. And it gives some good things it likes, but then it also leaves actionable feedback. It stops short of evidentiary rigor and concrete examples I expect from a guide. So the examples are not concrete. It feels too speculative. The voice, structure, and many of the promised tools are present and largely well executed, which makes the piece engaging. So plus, however, the manuscript leans heavily on author assertion and anecdote. I've had multiple clients, blah, 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 without showing the kinds of attributed examples. So they want references to back this up. Specific examples, checklists, that they actually need to do the work. For them, that means that there's intrigue rather than full confidence. Your author authority would be on the line here with this. It's useful and promising, but needs more evidence, templates, and sourced claims to move from helpful to indispensable. This kind of feedback is invaluable when you are getting ready to do a full book, right? Or your full book's written and you need to know how to make it the best it can be. And one of the things you could do with this kind of feedback is go here and click Save to Notes, which will put it in your notes box. And I suggest doing that and then rerunning first read 2 or 3 more times. Because every time you run first read, you're going to get a completely different persona within that group's point of view. And if you run it 2 or 3 times before you make changes, we're marking up the story, we're not doing surgery yet. If you do this before you make changes, this will give you a comparison where all 3 readers said they want more concrete examples. All 3 readers said they wanted XYZ versus this is subjective. This one kind of reader liked that I kept this personal. This other kind of reader wants concrete examples. This one reader wanted charts, and this other reader is glad that they don't have to get bogged down by charts. That would be a subjective example. So it lets you pinpoint the areas that are actual action-based feedback pieces. So run it, save it to notes. Once you rerun it, you can't get it back. So save it to notes each time. Here we have, again, it's 66. The chapter reads like a well-intentioned, helpful primer, but it still needs stronger, tighter evidence, cleaner documentation for claims that matter to my progress. Voice is engaging. However, things that matter to me, again, concrete examples, documented client results, and citations for market claims are going to help give them that confidence. And there's some things they didn't mind. This one doesn't mention wanting charts at all because that's a subjective preference. But this one still goes back to authority. The authority here could be stronger. And that is something you would want to work in if this was your book. So you're going to run through the feedback from your alpha readers and save to notes. And so if I go to my notes now, you can see this here, and potentially create a note board for yourself that lets you decide what you're going to do with your feedback. So let me go to this alpha reader for a second, save them both, and go into notes. The notes tab is this top right yellow button here. And we're notating, we're not making changes. Here you can, if you're like me, make yourself a cork board to replace the crime scene style sticky board behind you. But no sticky notes need be harmed in the making of this. So this is going to be my action item board, and I'm going to do it as a timeline view and create. This gives me rows and columns. And in here I could go, okay, this is my need to be done column. You can adjust the titles if you'd like. Start here. Concrete evidence and confirmed conversion examples. Save. These are things that I now need to come back and change when it is time to do the full developmental edit. Today, I'm collecting. When it's time to do the revisions, which we're going to talk about next week, I'm going to come back here and use these then. Once you finish your alpha read, you get your feedback, you've put pins in the biggest level things that you know you want to start with, it is time to actually do a reverse outline. And a reverse outline is the process of objectively breaking down your story in a way that brings visibility to areas that you need to revise. So clarity, engagement, author relevance, examples. We are looking for areas where we need to add more of those, trim some of those, and ones that are missing entirely. Now, a lot of us have used spreadsheets and sticky notes aplenty, but we also have reverse outlining tools at AutoCrit that we'll show you today. So you can do a reverse outline with organizational tools that tell you, hey, your self-help book should have these key things in it. And as you go through your book, you check mark what it has, like a bingo board. You also need coffee, or that was just me, tea, or anything else, a hot beverage of choice to keep you focused, and purposeful goals that move through each core storytelling element to check for each one. So where do we even begin on a reverse outline? Well, we're going to show you. I am going to pivot out of the alpha reader into our developmental editing tool, the Analyzer Plus, right here. No longer do you have to go reread your book and fill in a spreadsheet like a bingo board. Now the system will do this for you in a matter of minutes. Click on the outline button on the right-hand side, and then you're going to select what kind of book you are writing. Persuasive, I'm trying to get you to come around to my point of view. Historical, informational, that's going to be our educational type books, business books, self-help, ones where you're giving people instructions to make themselves even better, or just general nonfiction. And this one is a self-help book, so I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to click on this generate button. And this is not writing anything. It is reading my book, or this first chapter. In this case, it's reading my first chapter and plugging in which of these elements I have included and where they are right now in the book. So I can decide which ones appear out of order. If someone's reading a self-help book, they expect an introduction first, why they need to read the book second, the problem you're going to solve third, your credibility fourth, and then your success stories fifth, and so on and so forth in that order. That doesn't mean you can't buck trends and use your own order. It just means that readers are used to seeing this order. So as we go through, if I accidentally put my examples at the very end of the book, they no longer serve to buffer my authority, and that could be a bad thing, and I might want to move them up. The system will read your book. It will tell you what chapters it thinks you have done these things in, and then you can reorganize them with that drag drop feature under your chapter drop down list here. It will also let you know if that's not there. I've had it tell me there isn't a beat like this right now. And if that's the case, you need to make a note to yourself, goes onto that note board, that I don't have this. We're making sure we have all the core beats, all the core story elements our readers would expect when they pick up our nonfiction books. And we need to make sure that we haven't gone overboard on some and barely skimmed by on others. So this one, it says my hook and reader relevance is present and clear. It's got vivid fantasy scene opener. And these hashtags can be clicked on to jump to the part of the book it was reading when it gave that feedback. A direct call that readers will question agents. And then here we have reader's problem and empathy is present here. Suggestions that it makes as we go along. State the single sentence core problem clearly instead of being vague and around the bush about it. It will go through your beats, and if there are suggestions, it will make them for you. These are all suggestions that you can take or leave depending on how it best aligns with your author voice. So, for example, if I don't want to give them 2 measurable outcomes or promises, I don't have to. It's just making a suggestion. I'm going to read what it says. I'm going to add the feedback to notes. I'm going back to my note board at the top right corner, and I'm adding to my action items. So here, my clear problem. State the problem clearly for readers. Save. And then I'm stacking up work. I'm the surgeon who's marking all the things off, right? Before I head into actually changing anything. This is how you would do that reverse outline where you don't have to reread the book and fill in what you have where yourself. The system will do it automatically. You can also have the system pull up what it thinks about how you've explained your credibility, your experience, your audience relevance, and the clarity of your topic in here as well, which I recommend looking through. And again, notating. Notate is the note of the day. The first half of developmental edit is clarity into your work, visibility into your work, notating so that you can make changes. Next week, when we come back, we are going to pick up what you do with all those notes. AutoCrit has tools to help you finish out your developmental edit as well. But an effective reverse outline, when all is said and done, should leave you with clear, actionable next steps, and the actual revision process is next on your list. So if you walk away with homework from today, you're going to try to follow along. Do a reverse outline this week, even if you don't have a full book yet. Get used to seeing feedback of your work objectively without any human judgment. Notate. And hopefully this will help our planners and plantsers and any pantsers who have fallen into analysis paralysis. If you can train yourself to write it first, notate second, edit third, you have adapted that seamstress and carpenter mentality, measure twice, cut once. We have to have a clear picture of where we want this story to go. I do want to remind everyone, if there's a help bubble in the bottom right corner of every single page of the AutoCrit website, and it is 100% human manned. We do not have bots monitoring our chat system because we understand that these questions, these kinds of setups, like creating your own alpha reader, need a human touch. So we are here for you. You can message us if you need us and ask for steps to get back to something. If you want the replays for something else, if you need a little guidance on what to do. Next time, we'll be back to go through actual developmental editing revisions and beta reads. And as a friendly reminder, our Novel 90 Writing Challenge is about to enter its editing phase for almost everybody. Team Pantsers just kicked theirs off there. So you can come edit your book with us this month there. We would love to have you. And we also have Story Sculptor coming up. It is an intense self-editing program, step by step. I am teaching you to edit. You need 1 to 2 hours a day minimum in order to do all the homework, and you will have to do it every day or you're going to have major makeup work. I will teach you to edit, and then I give you daily tasks to get your edit done by the end of the month. There are 2 different kinds of tasks every day. One that is for our people who don't use assisted tools, so spreadsheet users, sticky note users, and one task for people who use an assisted tool of any kind, which includes AutoCrit. And I'm not saying it's a lot of work to hype up extra marketing. It is a lot. So make sure you have some time set aside before you sign up for it, or plan to purchase it and then go back and work through it at your own pace, I guess. But you can absolutely edit your book in a month, and I'm here to help you every step of the way. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.